I know you're super excited about Azure, and I can see it in your face. But should we stop and switch to Kotlin because Sahil will be like, these guys promised me Kotlin, and I don't see Kotlin yet. And we have an hour left, so I want to make sure that we have enough time to actually run our app and authenticate with B2C in Kotlin.
So let's go. Let's go chase the Kotlin path down. So we're going to switch gears for a minute. Just take a quick gear shift, and let's go do some Kotlin. So close some of these windows since we don't need all these things. Close.
And we'll try to document this this experience, by the way. So for if you want to do Easy Auth with B2C, then we'll probably try to put a bit of stuff out there to show you how to do it.
So if you want to do Kotlin with B2C, we have a
sample.
We have a 2.5 or 2-year-old sample that you can go look at. Which is out at MS Identity Android Kotlin. Okay? Now there is a newer one that is a Java one, but we're going to start from here so that anyone who's watching the next hour is going to be able to go pull this code, make the requisite changes, and make it work with their B2C. Okay?
And we'll put a sample on the 45 GitHub repo. So if you want to find the latest version and you don't have to go through the experience, then you can use that. And so then we'll go back to the docs team and we'll try to update this sample as well.
So we're going to fork this to 425 show.
Fork it.
So we're going to fork it over to 425 show, and then we'll make our changes there.
Yes.
Okay. So now we've got our 425 show, MS Identity Android Kotlin. Let's go grab this URL and let's get to work. So I'm in my main sort of Git folder here. Let's see. Let's do a clone.
You need .git at the end, don't you? What?
Nope. And let's get into MS Identity Android Kotlin. So this is our thing. Now, I have Android Studio, which is what we're going to use today. Android Studio, the thing I love about it is that you can just download the zip file and extract it. So that's what I've done. All I've done is download the zip file for Android Studio, which you can get from Google, or I think you can even get it from JetBrains now too. And I've got a JRE that's in a folder because I'm certainly not going to install Java on this machine. So we're going to run Studio 64, which is our Android Studio.
Sahil is excited. So Sahil, this is all for you, buddy, as we promised. And for Bolt, who says, I love how GitHub makes it easy to steal other people's repos. We're not stealing. We are borrowing. We'll return it back. We promise. It's just for the demo today, right? We'll give it.
Oh no! I mean, hey, we're happy to leave it as is if you want it. If you want the same thing, if you want it, we're happy to leave it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's. So we're in Android Studio. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger so it'll be easier to read.
Oh yeah, we had to do that before. And by the way, joke aside, being able to fork repos and create solutions, standing on the shoulders of giants. God damn, I can never say that properly. Shoulders of giants. Other people have written a lot of software, so you don't have to start from scratch. Just use what's out there and build your own solutions around them. Back to you, JP.
Okay.
Open source run is over.
So we have so we're going to terminate all this stuff because this, I think, is pulling from a different folder that we had from yesterday, and I don't even know what it's doing. Okay, so let's, look, you know what? I think it's in the same folder, but let's open an existing project, DMSI Identity Android Kotlin. There it is. Cool, let's open it. I think I already had it open, but whatever. All right, so let's just load up.
Install, run the exe, and you got Studio. Open the project in there and have some fun.
Make for a very quiet stream. What does that mean?
So Bolt was saying, maybe I should use all my channel points to mute JP for the rest of the stream. And I said, it will make for a very quiet stream since JP is driving today.
I don't have,
oh yeah,
you'll notice our layout is a little bit different. And thus
we can do this.
We don't have the, thus we don't have the bot running yet, but the bot will come, but I don't think the bot will mute us, at least not anytime soon. Okay. What happened to our screen? What happened to my screen? Oh. Okay.
Oh, you took me out of it. I'm just playing with the layout. Right. I think this one's better.
So we've got our app. So if we've got our app, so this is exactly what we've cloned. So the first thing we're going to go look at is we need to go make a few configuration changes. So if we look in our, let's see, in our raw folder in res, we're just going to deal with the single account one for right now. So let's get this zoomed in a little bit. Now, this file, this auth config single account JSON, this is documented, but it's not in an obvious place. So we have to make a few changes to this one.
Do you have a link to that documented files doc?
You know, I don't. I don't know where it is. I can go look for it. I don't know. I don't know where it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
So instead, we have to change our authority. So our authority type, it's actually kind of interesting. We just went through EasyAuth because we're basically going to do kind of just what we did with EasyAuth, where we're going to sort of trick the thing into thinking, oh, there's an issuer I should go and use. So I'm going to pull up. I've got some other code here. I'm going to pull this up just so that I'm not missing anything because we kind of ran through a bunch of. We beat our faces against the wall for quite a while yesterday.
Yes,
obstacles. Great way to put it.
Hurdles.
Hurdles. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. So let me get my specific syntax here that we need for this. If I can find it, since seemingly cannot seem to find it now. There it is. So in our auth config single account, what we're going to do. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong project. Hang on just a second.
And for those that are watching the stream on YouTube, we'll probably have the links below so we can get started and find those changes. So,
okay, here we go. I knew we'd get there eventually. So if we look at our single account, we're going to change this authorities block. So this authorities block has things like tenant ID and what kind of apps you're going to use. We're not going to use that. We're going to use this instead for B2C.
Very nice.
So for B2C, what we're saying is the authority, which is the B2C directory we're going to use, is my directory. But then we're also saying we want you to use this. You're going to have to use this too. You're going to use this B2C_1.
With B2C, you always need to provide one, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, because without a user flow, you're not authenticating through B2C.
Yep.
This is the first thing we have to do, which happens in an auth config single account.json.
That's only for signing in, right? This is not for, say, for example, if you want to reset your account or if you want to edit your profile.
Correct. So this flow is just for me to sign in and get access tokens for services. It does not have anything to do with alternates like resetting password, etc. So that's not going to be there. Okay. So we made our changes in auth config single account.json. That's the only change that we have to make there. So let's go into the app itself. And we're going to go look at the single account mode fragment. And then we need to get to the XML. So first, actually, let's just run this. I'll make sure my emulator's up and running and we don't have to deal with any drama.
The authority we're gonna run. Is way broken there. Because it's running to B2C. Okay, sorry. Did I still get thunder by explaining why?
We'll get there, though. We'll get there. Okay. So here's the app. Let's clear all the existing data from this app so we don't have to deal with anything left over. In fact, we'll just uninstall it. Yep. So the app is gone, not on the device anymore. So that's good. So we're all good there. And let's go do it's still building. So I guess we'll give it a second.
Oh. Or did you screw things up because it was trying to deploy and you killed that app or something?
I don't know. It's still cruising, so we're gonna let it cruise. Gradle build is running. Okay, keep on going. Let's go. Come on.
And for those that are not initiated in Kotlin, Gradle is like MS build and NuGet at the same time. So Sahil is saying, we use a custom policy which has Azure AD as IDP, but token to Android app will be received via B2C. Yeah, that's the expected flow. Will it work with Azure AD IDP fed with B2C? Well, since you're going through B2C, right? It's
B2C, your app knows nothing of the upstream identity provider. The only thing it knows is if you choose to include a claim that says, upstream IDP or IDP. The app itself knows nothing about how you authenticated. All it knows is that it got a token. It could verify the signature came from a known endpoint, which is your B2C, because B2C is the thing that ultimately signs that. So B2C consumes your upstream token. It consumes your login token from Azure AD, Facebook, Twitter, whoever, and then reissues its own. And so your code only needs to understand B2C. Exactly. If you're doing other things where you want to say sign a user in with Azure AD through B2C and then call an API, call something like Graph for that user, that's MSAL is not really going to help you there, because you're going to get an access token, then that access token is going to flow through the policy, and then then away we go. So there's not going to be MSAL isn't going to do anything except for interact with B2C. If you make a call to Graph with an upstream provider's token from your AAD login, that's going to happen just as an HTTP request. Like, you're just going to make that request and tag that thing on the top. Okay. So if we run the app, let's run it. Here's our emulator. Okay. So it's been reinstalled. So all of that this is exactly what the app's going to show you. This is going to break because our configuration is not such that this would work, right? So if we were to try to sign in, our sign in should take us to the correct sign in page, but all of this is going to be broken, right? So like this client ID isn't correct, and there's a bunch of other stuff in here that's not correct, right? But we are getting to B2C, which is a good first start, right?
Yep.
So we do need to go and change our client ID. So let me get my B2C portal up here. Let's go to B2C. We're going to go find our app registration. If you do not change the name of the app, you can use the hash that we have in the sample, which is what I'm going to do, because I don't want to have to figure out how to sign the app and do all that drama to go and run it. So let's go to our app registrations, and we're going to find. Did we call it Kotlin? There it is, Kotlin Android. So here's our app registration. Under authentication, I'm using the same package name that it comes with, com.azuresamples.msal Android Kotlin app. The signature hash stays the same. The redirect URI stays the same. I do have a new client ID, and we're going to have to get our client ID into our app. So we're going to copy that value, and then that client ID is going to go back in this authconfig single account.json. So we're going to change our client ID up here. So that's got our new one. So this is your B2C app registration ID.
Lovely.
Okay. Can I not use whack? Oh, this is JSON. Never mind. Can't use it. We have our app ID in here because our redirect, because we're using the samples hash and the samples name. We don't have to change our redirect URI. The account mode is single is fine because there's no sort of multi-tenant concept over there, so that's fine. So we're going to close that, and when we come into the single account mode fragment, the first thing you'll notice is that there's an authority hard coded up here. I have no idea why the authority is hard-coded, to be quite honest. I don't know why it would be, because this authority is essentially, for starters, it's in the configuration, but this authority is essentially Azure AD multi-tenant only. So this is only Azure AD, doesn't have anything to do with B2C. So instead, we need to essentially take the same authority value, and we're going to put that here instead. So this is now our B2C authority. This is our B2C authority. Include the user flow or policy ID. Okay, and I know Sahil, we'll switch to a custom policy here in a minute. So we've updated our authority, right? About the only other thing we need to do is go look at the version of MSAL that we are using.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go try to call some. We're going to go set up some stuff to try to call an API. So in our single account fragment, we've made our change here. The thing I have to remember is, how do we get to the activities. Here we go. So in our res layout, we've got our fragment single account mode.xml.
Yep.
And this is the thing that makes our layout, right?
Yep.
So in here, this is where we've got things like graph and all that sort of stuff that's already pre-filled. I don't want to type that every time because that's annoying. Yes. So instead, I'm just going to make some changes here. So this is MS Graph resource URL. Let's change that to API URL.
Yep.
Our API that we're going to call is one that we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to make it pretty simple. We're going to call saywhat.azure website.
Yeah, I love it. Say what?
.net/who. So this is just like this essentially will parse a JWT and echo it back. So this is what we should expect from this is just to see what's in the access token that we get back. So we got to go configure that.
This is only for development. Do not mess with your access tokens, please.
Yeah. So the other thing is we need the scope that we're going to be requesting. So let's go search for scope. So the scope that we have by default in the app is user.read. We don't want to use user.read because there is no user.read in our thing. So instead, we're going to put in our own scope.
Well, and B2C doesn't have graph in case people are confused about why we're removing it. Yeah.
It does have graph, but it's not user accessible, which is probably the best way to define it.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. That is the whole point.
So then we have API permissions. And so for our API permission, we're going to add our API that we're going to call, right? Yes. So we created this scope. Mm-hmm. This is the scope of the API that we need to call. If you're not familiar with creating scopes in B2C, I know we've got a few other videos on it, but essentially inside of your app registration of your API, you'll have expose an API, and here is where you define a scope. So once we've defined the scope in our API, our other client apps can go and use that scope. So we add a permission, my APIs, and then we'll see our API in here for us to choose. I can't remember what we called that one, but
so in Azure AD, you don't have to declare those scopes in your client apps. You can request them via MSAL, but for B2C, it's different, right?
Yeah, for B2C, there's no concept of consent, and there's no concept of user consent, and so because of that, if you request these APIs, if you request the scope, like if we were to request this access scope, for example, if we request this scope and we haven't consented to it in the as an administrator in here, we won't get it, meaning we won't get an access token. So it's very important, especially when you're calling your own APIs, it's very important to make sure that you hit this access or that you hit the admin consent button. And even though there is no user consent per se, it still has to be admin consented, and you'll notice it's happened once this little green checkbox shows up. And you can click it as many times as you want. It just resets it, right?
Hit it.
So what we're saying here is that when a user signs in with the Kotlin Android app, when that user signs in, we want access. We want two things. We want OpenID and offline access. So that's to sign the user in. And we also want an access token to call this API, the B2C Auth admin API. We want a token to call that API with this specific scope.
Yep.
So this gets us an ID token. The Microsoft Graph stuff here at the bottom gets us an ID token. Access gets us an access token.
Now, there is a bug that we discussed about before, right? The fact that in some cases you need to have a dummy API permission only for your app to sign you in. Is that correct?
In certain .NET versions, that's correct. With MSAL, that's correct.
Okay. Good.
So we don't have to worry about that today because we are requesting an access token because we have to call our API because it's a mobile app, and also because we're not .NET. So
we never said bug solved,
right?
We said a feature. It's an idiosyncrasy of the system.
Yeah,
it's a pattern.
So we need the scope value because this is the scope that we're going to request. I'm just going to grab this and copy it. And we're going to put that in as the default text in this app for the scope because I don't want to type it every time.
I mean, technically, you don't have to expose it, right? I mean, technically, it would be hidden behind the scenes. So you'll be pressing a button to say, go and get me the data from the API. So this is only for demo purposes, I guess, and for making it visible.
Yeah, this is the sample app, and the sample app just says, hey, if you're gonna, instead of hard coding these somewhere, we're just gonna say put them in a text box, and you can type in what you need, right?
So Sahil is asking, why do I need an access token if I just want to authenticate my app in my app and I don't want to call an API? You don't need an access token.
So I would ask what a mobile app does that does not talk to an API, for starters. Just in that the mobile app, unless it's a game or something, but even those, I guess, call a bunch of APIs. But
True.
Most mobile apps are going to have to call an API, and so you're going to need an access token for it. However, in .NET, and in which we're not in today, in .NET, there is a bug today where when you sign into a web app, if you do not have a dummy access token, or if no access token is returned, it causes the library to stop working, causes it to blow up and throw an exception because the access token is empty. Mm-hmm. It's a bug, and they're working on it. But the workaround for now is to add a dummy scope to your app and request that at sign-in. But again, only when you're doing like a .NET web app. The workaround is to add this dummy scope and request it, and that way the access token value is not empty. Even though you don't use the access token, you may not be calling an API. The library is expecting that. Is really the sort of the net, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So we're going to put this in because we are going to call our API, and we're going to see what gets sent back. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So
we change the button names down there because they're graph or whatever it is. Do we change them? No, further down, isn't it? Get graph data or something like that.
I guess I don't actually know. Well, yeah. Here we go. Get API. I don't know why everything's capitalized like this. It's awful. Get API data and get graph data, get API data silently.
Yep.
So we're going to clean those up. So now let's run this one more time and see what we get. Now we haven't updated the library, so we're still in a really old version of the library, but we're going to come back around and get to that.
1.x, I think current version is 2.x, so we'll do that as part of this demo.
So we're going to run this app again. So we're going to let it build, and we're going to run it again.
So there are two things left to do on today's stream, right? One is update the library to be the latest, and then the second one would be to use a custom policy. Is that correct?
Yep. So we've got our scope listed, so that's good. So our UI changes worked, which is great. Mm-hmm. This is the API that we're going to call, and all it's going to do is echo back our stuff. So let's go sign in, and let's see if we can't get signed in to start. So we'll sign in. Okay.
That's good.
So we're at our B2C login page, which is great. So that worked better than expected. Now we're going to sign in. Let's see what happens when we come back to our app.
Oh, snap.
Now, okay. So we got a JSON parsing error, but it does look like we got a lot of the data back.
Yeah.
So this is the data. In fact, if we want, we can go call this, and we'll just, I guess we can't because I don't have the token that this thing used. But oh no, what did I click? Clicked the wrong thing. But you'll notice the data down here is the claim data that we sent into that service, right?
Yep.
So we see the policy that we used, we see the expiration, not before, etc. Right? So so that works. So we've called our API. Our API has, with an access token, the API has looked at our access token data and said, okay, cool, this is what's going on. There's some JSON parsing drama, but whatever. We are getting the data back from our service, which is great. So two more things to do, like you just said. We're going to switch to a custom policy for one, and we are also going to switch to the newest version of MSAL because this is using the older version. And on mobile, there's all sorts of drama around system browser or not system browser or built-in browser or broker or whatever. And so we want to make sure that we're on the latest one. So let's go look at our build scripts. And our build scripts have I think our build scripts are probably where we're going to end up doing, where we kind of have to do the most changes, right? Because there's a bunch of stuff in here that... there's a bunch of stuff in here that's just not entirely super clean, right? So let's pull up our Gradle scripts. If I can find where I put them. Where are my Gradle scripts? Here we go. So
this is the user signed in with the ID token. Yes, Sahil, the user is signed in with the ID token. That's the whole point.
Yeah, so the user signed in with the ID token. Signed in is sort of a relative thing here, because signed in really means that we've got an ID token. It was validated that it came from the correct issuer, and then we're using the access token to go make a service call or whatever. So remember, of course, that your client apps can always be decompiled, and so anybody can go and decompile your apps. And so you don't really want to make really any authorization decisions based on the ID token. Yes. It's useful for showing you who the user is. It's useful to know that they signed in. It's useful for telling some other service who they might be, in addition to the access token that's used to call that service. But the vast majority of the authorization, like the actual authorization, is going to happen in whatever the downstream API is, because it's essentially unenforceable on a mobile device, because I could pull the APK and decompile it and see whatever it is that you don't want me to see, and that's trivial to do. Same with iOS, same with whatever. So the ID token has a significantly lower significance here than it does with, say, a mobile app or with a web app.
Yeah.
Because in the web app, that may be all you need to authenticate the user, especially if it's a server-side app, because then it's going and doing other things. In a mobile app, in a browser-based app, it's a totally different story, because mobile and browser-based apps are running on essentially untrusted hardware. It's running on your user's device, and you can't trust their device at all. You can't trust that they're not running, and maybe your user isn't malicious, but their hardware is. They've been compromised by whatever, and so because of that, we can't trust that hardware at all. So the ID token tends to be a little bit less important than it would be in a web app. Okay, so if we look at our build scripts, you'll notice there's some fairly specific URLs for where our stuff is, which is all sort of development-based stuff, and we don't really want any of that. So
no, I still don't know why this is in the sample. That is very weird to me. It seems that somebody was building it on the local machine and then just dumped it into the samples. So we can remove it, right?
Yeah, so we're going to get rid of all this. I mean, I'm sure it's helpful if you're building the stuff, but whatever. So we're going to get rid of this, and I'm going to replace it with the I don't know why this is, but for some reason the Duo SDK is where we can find Intel.
Yeah.
So the Duo SDK is where that is. And then the other thing we need to do is, in our module build, we need to go make this change as well. You'll notice, of course, there's still a bunch of extra goop in here as well. So we need to change. We need to make our Maven change here, and we'll just do Maven Central. We'll do Google. So we're going to make our changes here. So we got Maven Central, Google, Maven Local, and then we've got packages dev azure.com, which is the Duo SDK. We've got our Maven feed here. Now, the other thing we need to do is we need to update the version that we're going to use of MSAL. So we're going to get rid of all of the, if you're doing local dev with MSAL, blah, 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 we're going to get rid of all that because we don't need it.
Yep.
And instead, we are going to use MSAL
2.plus, right?
Yep, we're going to do MSAL 2. Now, the current one is 2.0.10. You can, of course, always sticky to a specific one. 2.0.10 is the latest one. We're just going to use 2.plus to go get the latest one, whatever that might be. Now, this will blow up. If you're following along with us.
Do you get a prompt?
If you're following along with us, this will likely not build.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to run it again. And it's going to pull. So we did the Gradle sync. It's going to go pull everything to start building. So we're running the build now.
Caparino is asking, what is this Maven? So Maven is the NuGet package manager the package manager for Android and Kotlin. And apparently there needs to be a match between library versions and Maven, or you should always have the latest Maven anyway. This project is 2.5 years old, so it has a very old version of Gradle, and therefore it's breaking when we try to build things. That's what JP is going to do.
And this is the error you will get if you try to run this. So the error down here is that the I can't zoom this thing.
You don't have zoom it? Just use Windows Zoom.
Okay.
Windows Plus. There you go.
So you'll get this manifest merger fail, right?
Yeah.
So this manifest, this will fail, and it's because there's a certain key missing, and it's because our version of Gradle is out of date for this project. So we've got to go update. We have to go update a few things now. Okay. So now we're back. So now we got to go update. We've got to go get updated. Now, this is one of the things that we sort of went in circles on yesterday. Is like, why isn't this working, right?
Yeah.
So this was where we figured out that there's a later version that doesn't require that change, or doesn't require that the specific key value that we were looking for, and so we need to go and update it. So
I think up to version 1.4 of MSAL, it was working okay, and then you had to upgrade your Gradles, and it makes sense to have the latest tooling anyway. So please always update your packages. Don't be afraid to do that. If you don't do that, you have security issues, and it's part of the OWASP top 10 best practices, as a matter of fact.
So yeah, the problem is whenever you upload your packages, you spend a whole day trying to fix everything that breaks.
You do, but it is better.
Especially in our case, MSAL had a point update, went from 1.4 to 1.5 and broke everything. So
yeah,
that's okay because we're on 2 now. So we're going to upgrade to 4.1.3 of Gradle. So this is in our build.gradle for the whole project. So we're going to upgrade that here. And now, in theory, I don't want to say 100%. In theory, we should be. Good to go. So let's run this. We'll do a sync again, and now, ideally, we start working. Unless I missed a step somewhere. Unless I missed where another change that we had to make somewhere else. Let's see. Minimum supported Gradle is 6.5. The current version is 5.1.1. So let me see if I can zoom this in. So we've got I did forget to fix the Gradle settings. So we've got Kotlin 1.3.3.1. We've got our package. That's all good. We've got our 4.1.3 here. We've got.
No, I don't want that.
That all looks okay. Okay, let's see. Is there anywhere else that I need to find? So this is in our main one.
Yeah.
We've got, okay, so that's all good. That all looks okay. And then we've got our build.gradle. We go pull this one up for our other one. If it's not obvious, I don't do a whole lot of JavaScript or Kotlin for that matter. So this all looks okay. So we've got our new URL here. And
Gradle wrapper and re-import project. Interesting.
So our Gradle wrapper properties. Let's see. Let me check the version. Yeah, this is our version. This is where. So this is where we need to change this to 6.5 bin. So let's do 6.5 bin. That is the latest one. So let's do this. We'll do a sync. Sync. Come on. You can do it.
You can do it. Gradle build. And I think that's the changes that we need to do to get Gradle and MSAL updated. And then it's custom policy.
Yep. And then we'll go hook up a custom policy and see where we go from there.
Configuring project. We're cooking. We're cooking now. Happening.
All right. So it's building.
Yeah.
Zoom this in down here a little bit. So we're further along than we were before, which is good. We're all up to date. We've got MSAL 2. Build successful. Cool.
Oh, check this out.
So let's run this. Let's go run this app again.
Oh, what is it?
Here's our Android emulator.
The specified Android SDK build is ignored?
I probably have to update my tools.
Ah, you're using
So,
an old version, right?
so this is building, still going, still building, which is great.
Give it some time.
Okay. So that's going, still going, and then we'll be out. So while this is building, okay, there we go. We'll terminate the one that's running in the emulator because we're going to push a new one. So we'll terminate that. Now we got a new version running, which is great. The cache is still there. So let's try a Git API. Let's see if we can't get the API data and see if we actually get it, and we do. So our tokens and refresh tokens are cached on device, which is great.
And we can greatest.
We can go and get the data from there.
So the last thing we'll do is it still throwing a parsing error. Do we need to fix that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a JSON parsing error. I'm sure there's something I didn't encode correctly or whatever. I mean, this isn't going to call my APIs anyway.
True.
Okay, let's go switch this to a custom policy.
Yes.
And see if it still works.
Yes.
Because while I haven't changed most of my custom policy, I haven't changed a lot of my like custom policy
settings,
like in terms of the issuers that are listed. Let's go grab this one and see. So B2C 1A, sign up, sign in. I do need to make sure that this one actually is still working before I.
That's a good point.
This one that I can actually log into it before we do it, because some of these have conditional access and stuff turned on them, and I don't want to, and I could end up breaking myself very badly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's go test this flow, make sure everything is still okay. And yeah, it didn't, because there's it's expecting something that is not there. Let's try our Suzy one. Do I have one that is not hooked up to an API? This might be my undoing here, is that I don't have one that I know 100%.
You don't have a simple one, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, these have a bunch of rules and stuff in them, so maybe the HRD one's working. Let's go there instead. So we'll do jbt.ms. Okay. Sign in. With the correct tab order, you might notice.
Are you using my code?
Since that's what's in our UI. No, it's something different, but it's essentially the same thing.
I'm a bit disappointed.
Okay, so we can sign in. We can sign in with this policy. So let's take this policy, which is our HRD sign up, sign in. Let's take this policy and let's go change our
settings.
Let's change our settings to use that. So in our auth config single account, I don't know why I have to zoom this in every time. That seems kind of silly, but whatever. We're going to use our 1A one, which is our custom policy. Mm-hmm. And we also need to change our authority here, because for whatever reason in this sample, the authority is here twice. It's in code and not pulled out of the config, whatever. So let's see. Are we closed here? Yep. So let's run this again now with our new custom policy and see if we still work.
Of course it will work. I have all the confidence in you.
So one of the differences could be that so we're going to sign out. So we're going to have to sign back in. So we've signed out. Sign out really just means clear your local cache, because all you're going to do is throw out the tokens that you got. So let's try to sign in. So here's our flow, our new flow.
Custom policy here. Yeah.
Our custom policy. And if we look at, I wish there's a way to see the URL. Maybe here. Yeah. So you'll notice in the URL, we're using B2C 1A HRD sign up, sign in.
Yeah.
So, home realm discovery. So we'll do a sign in here, and ideally we get our data back, and we do. So same scope. In fact, because I've got different claim names in here, the signed in user actually shows up.
Yeah, it did work.
Yeah, because I have the claim name mapped correctly. But so you'll notice we called our API, and the claim data that was sent to the API got sent back. So we can call our API successfully. We have our token. We can get our API data silently. We can close the app, and we can reopen the app, and our cache will still persist along with our refresh token. So When we run this the next time, we're already signed in. I don't have to sign in again. If we go get our API data is there. If we want to do it interactively, that's going to force us to reopen a browser. But since we're already signed in, and because B2C doesn't have incremental consent as we would in Azure AD, we don't really have to worry about that either.
Yeah, it's a weird flash. Do you so now you have two separate buttons. Would it be a way for doing the standard MSAL thing where you say, get me the token, it will try to do it silently, then if it fails, you will do the interactive one? Is that the... Because now we have two separate buttons, which doesn't make any sense. If you were to call your API, you would have one button say get data, and you would expect for the code to handle whether it's interactive or silent. Can you do that?
Yeah, I mean it's in fact it does it when it starts up. So you follow the same pattern that you would use otherwise. So try to do an acquire token silent. If acquire token silent does not work, go do an acquire token interactive. Because this is calling APIs, this is trying to go get an access token, which is acquire token. Let's see, where is that happening? Is that in the graph wrapper, perhaps? Let's see where that's happening. No, so this is sending in an access token. That's not what we want. This must be happening somewhere in here.
Yep.
So
there you go. Silently and interactively, I think.
So this is our sign out.
Yeah.
It's our sign out callback.
There.
And then here we go. So this is doing our acquire token silent directly.
Yeah.
And there's a callback that happens afterward.
So if you were to call this one, I mean, it's B2C, so I think it's going to work anyway. But would that not throw an exception if there was nothing in the cache? Would the
get off silent? So acquire token silent will throw an exception if there's nothing in the cache. Correct. So if there's no user there, then if there's nothing in the cache, then it'll throw an exception. The typical pattern that we see, the pattern that we tell people to use, is to do an acquire token silent, catch the exception. If there is an exception, then do an interactive. I don't know if that's implemented in here.
Doesn't look
so this is the silent one. So this is a silent callback. So on success, it calls our API, but on error, this is where we would catch this error. If it is an MSAL error, then or UI required exception, this UI required exception, this is where you would retry with the interactive one. So in here we would In here we would do we'd have to go and get our MSAL object again. But in here, this is where we would do the interactive, And then here's our interactive callback, which the interactive callback, it's sort of like, well, if you wouldn't have a UI required exception in interactive because of course it's interactive and you already have a UI.
Yep.
So if this fails, it just fails because the user canceled or did something else. This goes and calls the API, and then the thing, let's see, what was I looking for? We're looking for the username. Let's see, current user text is the account. Yep. So update UI uses the account, and the way that the claim name that you need to send in, if you want those to be the same, is, let's see. Not mail, not type. It is. It must be email, which, yeah, because it's the username. So you can do, I believe it's preferred username is the name of the claim. Or let's see.
I think you're using email for yours.
It must be email then. Yeah.
So you map the email to, or they're looking at email for username?
Here we go. So it says it returns the account.username returns preferred username claim or empty string. So it should be preferred username. I don't know why, to be quite honest, I don't know why this code works, why it thinks my username is that. Because I don't have a preferred
custom claims, yeah.
I don't have a preferred username in here unless I'm just missing it somewhere. So it is kind of strange. It is a little strange.
This code doesn't work, or this code works, but I don't know why. There's a name for that, for sure.
It sort of implies that Let me go back and look. Okay, so this is the one that we just used. Let's look at this metadata first. The metadata may have remapped it. Let's go look.
Oh.
So that's all the same. Yeah. Name. Yep. So those are all. Yeah. So those are all there. There's no remapping.
There's no preferred name.
Let's go get an access token for. Let's see. This was our Kotlin Android. Well, let's do our admin.
Return to JOT.
Yeah, I won't be able to look at it.
Mess. Yeah.
We'll just do test app again.
Okay.
So from this flow, we run this.
Yep.
And we sign in.
You have signed in with Facebook, but you don't have a Facebook account. I love it.
We don't have preferred username in here.
We don't. No. It's weird.
And we're not doing any mapping. So I wonder if somewhere it must be getting set.
Yeah.
Let me search through here. So
I think that's the place that gets set, man.
That is, and it's sending in the account that we get. I was like, how can I find all usages? Here we go, find usages. So that's in the auth interactive, and then we have initialize UI. We're updating it to null and load account. Let's see what's happening in load account. No, it's just active account.
Just passing it in. Yeah.
So I don't know where it's getting that username. I don't know why it would be setting it. I guess the other thing, the other place we could go look. So, so the account is null, or if the account's not null, then set it to account.username. And it's msal 2.0.10.
Yeah.
And we're not sending a preferred username claim.
No.
So something somewhere, I don't know where, something somewhere is
setting it for us.
Or
passing the right value. It sounds very weird.
Unless maybe there's something in here that's like looking at one or the other. What's that called? It's called user, signed in user. No, just current user.
It just passes in the...
Yeah, it's just setting it there. Yeah, I don't know. That's quite strange. It's where account.user. So it must be something. It's something down in the library. Something down in the library it has a different. I mean, I wonder if it's because I've.
I don't think it's in your claims. I think it's in the library that it will try. You know what? I think they haven't updated the description in the library. Maybe.
Well, if we look at the thing, the only field that has email is the email field and then the mail array.
Yeah.
So, because the given name, family name, I don't even have a display name in here. Given name and family name. Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird.
I don't know
where they're coming from.
I think that if you look at is there open source library for Kotlin that we can go and look at?
It's just msal4j or whatever.
Oh, it's msal4j? Okay.
So let's go look in here for preferred username. Okay, so not really a whole lot in here. So preferred usernames. There's also name.
So
this is ID token.java. Okay.
Which makes sense because it's looking at the ID token.
So no, preferred user. So it also has name. So I wonder if it's falling back from one to the other.
And it's looking into the claims and says, grab me there. Can you zoom in? I can't see anything there.
Well, it has ID token. So it's got ID. So create from JWT. So it's looking for issuer, subject, audience. So of course we've got that. Expiration issued, not before. We got that. So an ID token.name is being set by name.
Oh, you know what? I don't think it's here. I think it's in the iAccount object that does the mapping. It's the iAccount object that does the mapping. So it's the Java iAccount thing, or is that an MSAL thing? You know, in your code, we're dealing with an iAccount. So is that a Java object, like the claims principle in .NET, and then it does the mapping there?
Maybe. Let's go look.
Because I think that's like we're not passing the ID token claim directly. We're passing the iAccount property, and I think this is where the mapping is taking place. Can you change the code to use mail instead of preferred username just to confirm? Okay.
So you would have to do account. I don't know if we can get. Let's see. Account ID ID token, and then you have to parse the ID token.
So account.
Oh no, sorry. There's a Git claims on there. That's fine.
Okay.
So you do account claims, and then you'd have to get by key. So you do something like email or whatever.
Okay.
But we could change it that way, although it doesn't like that. But I'm sure it's just a syntax thing.
That's not. It probably returns something that is not a string, right?
Yeah, this is a toString.
That looks like .NET.
Replace with a safe. Oh, in case it's not there. Okay. And then otherwise none. Okay. Still doesn't like that though, but I'm not. Let's see.
Doesn't like it. Still doesn't
map
like it.
of claims. What does it not like here? Only a safe or non-null asserted is allowed as a nullable receiver of type mutable map string. Okay. Okay. So claims.get email. So let's get
claims could also be null. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Claims could be null. So that's here. So one thing to look at before. So our iAccount, what is the implementation? I'm going to figure out the implementations are of these different accounts, but
is there an account?
Here's our iAccount.
So an iAccount is actually an MSAL object rather than a Kotlin.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's an MSAL object.
Okay.
So then there's a username. There's a username method. So let's see. What is the fastest way to find our different account? So these are, let's see, tenant profiles. Okay, so that's account. What's the fastest way to find everything that implements iAccount?
Fork it. Fork it final references or clone and final references. Can you do?
We got our account.
That doesn't seem like a big class there. Does it inherit from a base class? No.
It implements iAccount.
Maybe that's the base class, and then there is a derived class from accounts.
Yeah. Like let's see if anything else. Is anything else implemented? No. Oh no, I need this whole thing. This needs to be like a string. Okay. Nope. So that's the only thing that implements iAccount. So then that would imply that either we have something is changing. I mean, something's changing that account, right?
Java scares me. It's a matter of getting used to it. I suspect is account probably a partial class of a Java account, and then things happen automatically.
I don't know what would a Java account be though?
It's the same as a claims principle if you derive your own custom claims principle. Although that sounds stupid now that I say it out loud. Why would we? would we create our own, account object just to be special? That's weird, man. It's like
I don't know. Something's. I'm sure we could chase it down, but let's see. So that's the key. This is all the cache key stuff. So that's creating it.
Sorry, Bolt. You can't use automatically. It's trademarked, so you have to pay me 5 cents every time you use it.
So there is this. So when it pulls it out of the cache, it does pull the username property. But I imagine that happens. This is happening long before that, right? So it does say. So when it does, that's ADFS. When it does create it, here we go. So we've got. So this uses object ID or the subject, right? So then username is still preferred username. So it's setting that username here. And then name is being set to name.
Crazy.
I don't see. So this is when it's creating the object in the cache. So I don't know. I don't know why it's coming through like that. It's very weird. I don't know why the username, where it's getting that username from, because we are not sending that back. So somehow, somewhere, it is getting that. Something must be mapping it. Like if there's no preferred username, then use name. That's my only guess, because I don't know where else it would be coming from.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe we can speak to our SDKs team to see how they map it and why it's like the funny thing is that it worked with your custom policy. It wasn't working with a default sign in sign out policy. So there's something different between your custom policy claims and the default one. But you don't have preferred name there, so that's extremely weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It is it's very weird, but anyway, I'm going to put this back to the way it was because I don't want to change the sample any more than we already did.
Yep.
So let's go put this somewhere. Let's go get this pushed, and that way everybody can go and get it.
There you go, Sahil, because she was asking where we can find it. It should be on our 425 show GitHub repo. Yeah, we do even have a GitHub repo. How about that? We need to add a command for it. So,
I didn't commit it.
You didn't commit. So yeah, github.com//45 show, and under there you should be able to find this one along with all the other samples that we're doing for our blogs. And JP has to write 2 blogs over this weekend since he's not feeling particularly well. He can stay in bed and write blogs for you folks.
Well, I did get I got my second shot yesterday, so I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit fuzzy. So
Todd said take the day off, and in fact, right after this stream, like when we wrap it up, I'm getting changed and I'm flying out to get my second dose as well, and I'm getting Moderna, so that's gonna screw me up properly. But I don't know how the weekend will be.
I got the Pfizer
for the rest of the day, by the way. So don't try to.
I got the Pfizer one, so which
Pfizer.
was it worked well enough, you know, okay. Whatever. So
now you're immortal.
I don't know. I don't feel like super bad, but I'm kind of tired. My arm's really sore, and I'm just like kind of like stiff all over, and just
make sure you're following that. Smart Spring 1 got the AstraZeneca. That's great. Please get immunized. If you can get vaccinated, please get vaccinated. We want everyone to be safe, and we want everyone to have a good weekend as well. We will be back on Tuesday, just me and JP, and we have a few things in the pipeline. One was a full .NET sample that we wanted to go and fix and have some fun. Then there's ADAL to MSAL that we also want to do. So there might be a few things there for us to talk about. We don't have any guests. There will be some news. There will be some fun stuff. Smart Spring has a question, and we have 6 more minutes, so why not? Quick question, slightly off topic. I'm migrating an ASP.NET full framework from ADAL. Oh, see, I'm telling you, this is going to be a hot topic. Should I migrate to MSAL or Microsoft Addendum Web? Well, are you migrating to ASP.NET Core 3.1 and later? Then yes, I would say absolutely Microsoft Addendum Web. If you are migrating to something older, which I don't know why you would do that, then I would say then you may still need to use MSAL to go and acquire token stuff. And there might be some scenarios where you're doing something exotic, which is outside the realm of Microsoft Addendum Web. So without seeing your code, I can't really say. JP, any thoughts on that?
Moving from framework to core and migrating from ADAL to MSAL is going to be a bit of a. It'll be a few steps. We'll say that. Depends on how you're using MSAL. Like if you've wrapped ADAL in some higher level object that you're passing around to your classes, maybe it'll be a little bit easier. But it's it's just going to come down to like how frequently you're using it, how you're instantiating your ADAL clients, what you're doing with your ADAL clients. Like if you've written any sort of custom caching for ADAL and things like that, we'll have to look at those. And then identity.web, like identity.web is essentially a configuration thing. It doesn't actually do anything on its own. It configures ASP.NET Authentication to sign you in. So it does things like it configures the OpenID Connect providers for ASP.NET Authentication, and it configures MSAL and sort of squishes them all together, right? And so identity.web itself handles a lot of the like drama between, is this Azure AD or is it B2C or who's the authority or who's this or who's that? So like, the library in itself is really great for getting started and getting going and doing config, but ultimately it's configuring ASP.NET and configuring MSAL. And in .NET Full Framework, we're going to end up having to do essentially the same thing, where we just have to configure both of them sort of standalone and then link them together where they need to be with stuff like authorization code redemption and things like that. So one of the two things alone would be a bit of work. The two things together is going to be a little bit more work, and it's going to be a lot because of the paradigm is changing a bit and how we have to do stuff. But we're going to take a look at that on Tuesday anyway. If you have any sort of code like that you want to share with us, a repro, something small, whatever. If you want to share it with us, come join us on Discord and you can send it to us and we'll be happy to take a look.
It's decided. JP has already updated the title for Tuesday's stream, so he's committed publicly that we're doing ADAL to MSAL. I mean, it wasn't a secret, but now we have.
I'll say, here's the thing. Almost a year ago when we started doing this show in July, one of the very first shows we did was ADAL to MSAL. And I feel like this is the other question for you too, Smart Spring, is are you using ASP.NET Identity and ADAL, or are you just signing people in and not using an ASP.NET Identity database or membership database? Like, if we're doing that, that's like a third big bucket of stuff that we have to plug in and accommodate for, and you sort of end up peeling back the layers of all these different things. So anyway, we're done for today. We're gonna get out of here. Let's go raid somebody. Where are we going to go?
Let's raid. Exciting.
Be sure to come and hang out on Discord. So,
Layla.
We haven't been to
Layla
Layla in a long
streaming.
time.
Layla is streaming every day these days. She is busy.
I know. She's busy. All right, let's go over. Let's go raid Layla and see what she's got going on. So,
do you want to take the Microsoft developer? You take the other one.
I think we're all set up with. I think we're set up anyway. So let's all go over and see Layla. I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. Be sure to join Discord. Send us notes. Send us emails if you have any trouble. We'll be happy to help. And have a great weekend, everybody. I'm going to try to not feel like death the rest of the day because of the silly vaccine.
Take the day off. You're welcome, BSD. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.